Okay, so now this is the game loop that I talked about. And the game loop says while running. So now we're checking for events. What's happening in the game? If there's a key pressed, if the escape key is pressed, then exit the game by turning running to false. If we quit the game by closing the window, we turn running to false. So these are just ways to make sure that the game ends when it's supposed to. Now, here we go. Every 250 seconds or 250 milliseconds, we're triggering add enemy. So if there's an event called add enemy in that list, then we create a new enemy, which is an instance of that enemy class that we created. And then we are adding that new enemy to the enemies group, and we're adding them to all sprites. We'll see what we do with those in just a minute. So now, if the key is pressed, we're adding it to pressed keys, and we're calling the player.update. Remember when we said every sprite has to have an update? Now we're passing the pressed keys as an argument to the player update, which basically says whatever key we're pressing, we're sending it to the player so that they can update that sprite accordingly. Now we're updating all of the enemies, so that whole group, we're just calling, we can call the update method for every sprite in that group all at the same time. Now that we've updated their locations in memory, we're going to start to draw things behind the scenes. So screen.fill fills it with that blue color. Now for entity and all sprites, so we're going to use that all sprites group. We're going to blit the entities, the visual part of it, and the rectangle, which includes the square and the location. So this is putting the enemy on the screen. So we're putting the surface, the visual part, at the location of the rectangle. Now we're checking for collision. So to check to see if any of those missiles is touching the player, we use Pygame Sprite Collide Any. So basically, if any sprite is colliding with the player, so if any sprite in this group is colliding with the player, then we kill the player and we stop the program. This is where you might do like a game over message or an explosion or something like that. Now that everything is taken care of, we've checked for the collisions, we've moved everything around, we've drawn everything in the background. Now we flip the screen. Flip, and then we are maintaining a rate of 30 frames per second. If I change that to 100, you'll see everything moves incredibly fast because I'm allowing the program to run more quickly. But if I say we cannot do more than 30 frames per second, then the game slows down to a reasonable pace. So we can use that clock tick to adjust the difficulty of the game also. But that is literally the entire game. It is a lot of code, but you should see what this would look like if you had to code it from scratch. Okay, so this is a lot less than you might expect